And so then soon after that, somebody moved next to the next apartment over, and he started having headaches and hallucinations, auditory hallucinations. And when he'd open the door and walk in at night from work, he'd hear dice rolling and clattering and pots and pans and voices telling him that, the usual foray. Well, anyway, what it turned out it was...
Voice to skull.
Right. What they had done, and they'd just taken an ordinary microwave oven, pulled the door off, and pinned it. The lockout circuit, pinned it,
right.
and then through putting in a couple of tweaks into the circuitry, were able to do voice to skull, where they could speak into a speaker and it would transmit into his brain. And you've had guest Patrick, what's his name? You've had guest, trying to think of the guy's name. You've had guest.
Oh, yes, sure, Dr. Patrick Flanagan.
Yeah, and who's an absolute genius. The guy is unbelievable, and they tried to take him out many times. They burned his lab down and everything else, but he knows a lot more than he ever discloses. But he discovered this, really. But so that's where it started. And the reason we know this happened, because somebody in the CIA came forth, felt sorry for this guy. This guy went to the psych ward. He thought he was cracking up, and the doctors there told him, no, you're all normal. It must have just been something. So then CIA guy, local CIA guy, had a run-in with his station over drugs, refused to do it, and they took a shot at him in the parking lot out in a suburban area. It fired into a residential community, went right through the window of an apartment building, and of course no one got in trouble or anything. The police were told to stand down and all this. But he went to this person and said, hey, here's what they did. And he told him, the file shows that they took this microwave and adapted it, and they were beaming this stuff at you, and so you need to get out of there. Well, he sued the CIA and sued the local station in town. Of course, whenever they have a CIA station, they always have it under the office name of the guy, that's a fake name for the guy that's the station chief, So anyway, it gets into court and stuff, and this is a huge lawsuit, and the media are barred, everything, all the stuff sealed, and they go back, and Stanley Sporkin calls up during the trial. He's a CIA attorney, tells the judge, there's not going to be a trial. We're locking down all the evidence based on national security. So the judge goes out and says, no trial, nothing can happen. It's all locked down, national security. Sorry. So he got nothing for it, no damages. Now, of course, he's on a no-work list, and they've made his life miserable and whatever. Now, I've worked with a number of cases like this, numerous cases. And one right now, I work with a guy named Mark Nowitzki, who's one of the most important federal whistleblowers ever had, as important as Snowden. And the media won't touch him. He's too dangerous. And they're beaming so much stuff. I've been up to his house through it, and every instrument I have 3 different instruments went right off the map. It was 2. I had to turn them off or it burned the circuits out. That's how hard they were hitting. We eliminated some of the sources were inside the house. We eliminated those related to TV boxes and Wi-Fi. Shut all that down, but there's still some strong ones coming from outside. Of course, when we started tracking them by direction, then they turn them off for a while and they turn them on later. So I've seen this, but then there's other kinds of weapons. There's high-powered lasers that will temporarily blind you. There's what's called macers, and there's certain kinds of electronic cannons. These are all handheld devices.
Right, they're small. They're miniaturized now compared to what they were 30, 40 years ago. Oh, yeah.
Oh, they have to be within, the ones that I've seen were had a range of about 100 to 200 feet. But some of them could be tuned to actually shut your car off, too. Or you've heard of the Boston brakes, where they can hack into the computers.
Any electronic ignition system in a car can be remotely shut off.
Right. So anyway, I myself was attacked with something different. And I started to pass out, and someone was with me, so I had a witness. I hit the brakes, and I'm not going to talk about the specific on this on air because I'll tell you sometime it's too weird, but it is true. It's all verified with a witness.
But it basically had you at the wheel, awake, alert, and then you started to pass out.
Fired a beam in from the back that hit the mirror. You know what a welding torch is like. This is a Saturday afternoon with the sun out. It's like about 100 welding torches. We closed our eyes, but even through our eyes, it could have burned us. So I slammed on the brakes as hard as I could. He swerved to miss hitting me, and I was going to do something else.
He was that close, so you got him.
I can't talk about what I was going to do.
I understand.
But he was able to swing in the left lane of traffic, take off at high speed. It was a Subaru WRX, which is a high-powered car, took off down the highway, and I was not willing to pull out and chase him. Even though my car is faster than his, I wasn't willing to do that because I was having trouble staying awake. But I have 2 friends. One guy's been a a victim since he was 20 years old. He got a job working for a defense contractor in Germany. And the real reason they lied to him, the real reason was they wanted to experiment on him. And they started all these experiments like trying to electronically remove his soul and drugging him with LSD and all this kind of stuff. And he heard the voices and all this stuff. Well, he went to the closest hospital where they had an American doctor there, and he told him, I think I'm cracking up. So the doctor pulled him aside and said, no, there's a big MK Ultra experiment in town. You're one of the suckers. And he said, the fact that it's not working on you, they're probably going to kill you. So don't go back to your apartment. Go from here to the airport, abandon your clothes, and go right to the airport, get on the first plane anywhere but here. Get the hell out of town, or you're a dead man. So
he was lucky that somebody
they've
was
been
honest.
bothering him his whole life. I had to verify his story. Some of the stuff he did, they shot out his window with a BB gun in the winter. They drilled a hole in his front door. They do little things. The neighbor shot off fireworks in the middle of the night, aimed at his house, and things like this. They move people, and they will buy a house near you. One time I had a friend over sitting in my easy chair, and all at once he screamed and jumped out of the chair, and his little finger had swollen up and turned red like a bee sting. I said, what happened? You got stung by a bee? And he said, no. So I sat down, put my hand in the same place. The same dang thing happened.
Right
so
through the window?
No, this is where it's weird, Jeff. So I went and run to get my instruments to track what it is, and it was a very intense. Whatever it was, it's very intense electromagnetic, like ELF. But any of the ELF I've seen in the past was a waveform where it was it would spread out. This was a very focusing, like no more than an inch wide. And so I traced it where it hit my chair and to where it came through the wall, and traced it right down the street to a house that was owned by a Soviet Spetsnaz guy. So when I start checking into it, calling on the phone and stuff, he immediately moved out. The house they've been vacant ever since. So the point is, that's the kind of stuff they do. And Mae Brussel, they did the same thing with her when she started saying they bought the house across the street, and they moved in about $50,000 worth of transformer and stuff, and then pulse beam microwave at her until she got cancer. That's the kind of stuff they do. Now, I have this one friend I told you, he was driving down the street. He came to an intersection. He completely blacked out, went into the intersection, and got T-boned twice by two cars coming each way. Luckily, he survived it. Okay, another friend of mine was his family traveling to Chicago on a highway. All at once, he sees some kind of a flash. They all black out. His car's filled with 4 kids and a wife. They all blacked out. He goes off the road right as he's starting to go off the road. A Suburban sideswipes him, a black government Suburban at 90 miles an hour, but it doesn't hit him hard enough. So he wakes up, fortunately, regains control. Everybody else in the car was asleep for like 10 minutes, even through this. He wakes up, takes off the black Suburban, took off like a bat out of hell and got away. It was a hit and run. But he did see that there was no license plate, so he assumed it's your typical government car. And where the beam that hit him, they never saw where it came from or anything, whether it came from that car or whatever. But that's the MO. And if he had rolled the car, they could have all easily been killed because they were going 70 miles an hour. So we've seen this happen a lot of times, and I've had other people. And if you are interested, I will tell you some of the interesting countermeasures that I've seen work. So.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know, obviously.
Another friend of mine, somebody that you would know of, a real famous attorney, actually was Michael Riconosciuto's attorney at the time. He was traveling down to see him when he was in prison, And so he, once this black helicopter appeared over his car by 300-400 feet up, a green laser comes down, shatters the back window, and made everybody in the car sick. That's the kind of stuff you see. Were they trying to kill him? No, they were. It was a warning to him. But this is the kind of crap that goes on all the time. So now what we have is a situation where, Professor Fetzer, he's staying at my house. I'm educating him on psychotronics, and he doesn't believe any of this stuff. He says it's baloney. So I said, okay, Jim, what would you
Jim
accept?
Was on last night. This is all new to him. How interesting.
Yeah. So I said to Jim, what would you accept? He said, nothing short of 100% proof. I don't go by theories or anything else. I don't go by testimony. It's got to be backed up by scientific fact, because he's a professor of logic, and he's a hard sell, this guy. Okay, so we get in the car and I said, now watch. So I take him down the highway at rush hour, and I show them how the microwave transmission is coming off. They put in brand new radio-controlled streetlights. And I showed them how they turned the stuff on right as we're going through at rush hour. They turn it off during the day to conserve energy, but in the morning and night they turn them on. And I'm talking real high, powerful stuff, way off, way over the legal health limit.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like 400 milliamps a square meter. This is a lot. Well, anyway, so he was shocked. So then we took down another road in the local community, same thing, where they had the street lights cranked on during rush hour in the morning and at rush hour, but off during the day. And these same street lights, they have speakers and stuff, and they sense people's cell phones, and they spy on people as they're driving by. It's real bizarre. They're putting a lot of money into this. The local public school went over there. The microwave readings were off the map from the Wi-Fi, way over the normal health range. Now, as you know, there are asylum cities in Europe and some countries where people that have been diagnosed with a electronic disability, EMF sensitivity, they can test for it. 3 to 6% of the people, kids or any age adults, have what's called hypersensitivity to EMF, and then when they hook up an EEG to their heart, or an EKG to their heart, or an EEG to their brain, they get disturbed brain waves and they get disturbed heart rhythms. So this is not theory, and they actually have a disability. They get government aid for it, and they can live in these asylum cities to be protected from excessive EMF. Well, as you know, probably one province in Canada pulled out all the Wi-Fi in the school because they had reports from Denmark that the scientists there would not certify it as being safe for developing brains, for children's developing brains.
Well, in the UK, they've outlawed it,
right.
Kids under 18.
Right. And, what they're finding out now, as you know, Jeff, in fact, I think you were one of the first to even be concerned about this, is the cell phones that, initially there were no warnings about cell phones, and where the manufacturers are asked, they said it's perfectly safe. Now, if you notice that there are small print warnings in all the cell phones about keeping it, mine says you have to keep it at 3/4 of an inch or more away from your ear.
That's encouraging. It's something. It's not enough, but...
Well, you have to ask yourself, how much damage has been done with this. So my point I'm going to make, and can I verify this? No. Are the sources impeccable? Yes. Is it more than one source? A number of sources. Right now, the cell phone towers can be triangulated. Your house wiring can be used. Smart meters can be used. Some of the appliances in your house, like your certain TV boxes,
HD
can
stuff,
can be used as weapons. Some of them have cameras in them. And you know about lily waves, which is probably the most top secret. They will never admit about lily waves. But when you want to get concerned is when they start digging your road up in front, tell you they have utility problems, because they're probably installing a lily wave generator on your underground cable if it's in there, whatever. But they can target an individual house.
Did I tell you the story that Pat told me? Flanagan, Dr.
Flanagan, you mean?
Did I tell you the story?
I don't remember it.
This is fascinating. Let me jump in here, if I might, real quick.
Yeah.
He went over to see a friend who was a kind of a garage scientist, and he went into the garage, and the guy was in there, and he had a big oscilloscope and other readout instruments there, and they were all lit up, and there was a wave form on the oscilloscope. It was the lily wave. And Pat recognized it immediately. He told me this on the program here 20 years ago. And he said to the guy, he says, "What are you doing?" And the guy said, "You see that?" And he said, "Sure, the lily wave." He says, "Try and guess where it came from." And Pat said, "All right, I give up. Where is it coming from?" And the guy pointed to the electric plug in the wall. He said, "It's in the grid." And it didn't just get there by itself, of